Welcome, everyone, to another edition of 10-Minute Misconduct, where we discuss everything Leafs related. We look back at the week that was, we look ahead, and we discuss all of the big topics that are going around the team right now. I'm Joe Choffs. I'm here with my partner in crime, Coach Frank. How you doing, Coach?
Always good. It's game night tonight, boys, and so far so good. So I'm doing good. Let's do it.
You'll know what happens in the game as if our mood slightly shifts. If Washington scores a goal and ties this game in the third period, our mood is going to slightly be downgraded. If the Leafs get a bigger lead, we'll be happier. So hopefully the Leafs can pull this one out here in the third period. Bobby is not with us tonight. He's on a scouting assignment, so we wish him luck. Hopefully he finds some diamonds in the rough out there. Frankie, let's start off with that game on Saturday against the Detroit Red Wings. As Leaf fans, we've become so accustomed to hearing it was 4-1. And now in the past year, we've become accustomed to hearing it was 3-1. Frankie, we were this close to hearing it was 7-2. But luckily, thankfully, the boys managed to pull it out. They get a couple goals, retake the lead, or regroup or what's the word I'm looking for here? They
pulled their shit together.
They pulled it together and figured it out. So we don't have to live through another embarrassment. But I got to say, do you remember watching a game like that? Not just high scoring like that, but the fact that it was 7-2 and, their bags were pretty much packed and on the airplane ready to go home.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's a 1-goal game. I don't remember ever seeing something like that.
No, me neither. I don't think we ever could recover from a 7-2. That just doesn't actually. The last time I remember seeing something on YouTube where I think Montreal had a 5-0 lead and they lost 6-5. I can't remember who they played. It wasn't too long ago, maybe about 10 years ago, I think. But it has happened. It has happened.
I think
before. So
the Leafs blew a 5-goal lead going into the third against St. Louis.
Of course,
it was 5-0, and they ended up losing.
Yes.
That was about 15 years ago, I think.
Yes, that's right. So it's somehow or another, they always tend to surprise us. So, I would have loved to hear some of the comments after that game and some of the cliches and, we just got to get back to work tomorrow. We got to go through the video and see where we went wrong. It was a small part of me hoping, what that would have been like, but I'm glad. I'm glad that didn't happen. I couldn't watch, the highlights, hear sports radio the next day. You just don't want to go through that. Cause I remember the 3-1 collapse. I did not listen to sports radio for, must have been 3 weeks.
Smart move.
3 weeks. Not a second of it. Cause I knew what was coming. Right. So, and that was just awful, but hey, they pulled it through. 10 goals, a 10 spot. It's a touchdown and a field goal.
Yeah. 17 goals total. Do you think hockey would be a lot more popular if games were way more high scoring like that game? Maybe not a 10-7, but we saw a lot more games that were, 8-6, 6-5, 7-5. You would have to think so, right?
And just as you say, Washington ties the game.
Now I'm sad.
My favorite era was that late 80s, early 90s fire wagon hockey, just because, listen, whether you're a casual fan, whether you're a hardcore fan, you're not watching for a 1-3-1. You're not watching for the neutral zone trap. You're watching for goals. And at the end of the day, 17 goals makes the fan in Toronto and makes the fan in Sunrise, Florida, stuck to their televisions watching. So yeah, bring them on, man. Especially if you have a team like the Leafs who can score goals at will. Yeah, absolutely. This is February. It's not like we're talking about a 10-7 game, in game 2 of the playoffs. This is a game.
It would never happen.
It's inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Anytime a game is more high scoring, it's always more entertaining. When the defense is lacking, it allows for a lot more chances, a lot more excitement. When you have lead changes, when you have blown leads, this creates more excitement in the game. So I think it would be better for the game, to be honest. Do you think that game almost blowing that lead in the third period. Do you think that was more of an indictment of the Leafs team defense, or was it more of an indictment on the Leafs goaltending issues of late?
Well, you got to look at how the goals were scored, right? I think 4 of them were deflections in front, right? So can you really fault some of those goals on the goaltending? Not really. Some of them were like, yeah, you had no chance on deflections. Again, then some of them on the other side were, were Campbell's fault. They were a pass right to their guy, and or not being set. So I think it's a little bit of both. I do think they played very loose in their own end. I know they started the year like very tight, very good in their own zone. They're the way they were collapsing down low, their space between the defense and the offensive team was much better. Now they just seem like they're backing right in. They're not within a stick length of the puck carrier. They're not hard on the boards. Okay, Labushkin's helped a little bit, coming over, but you can't expect one guy to change everything the way they play in their own zone, right? I hate the way they cover their points. Their point men are so wide open. But
I think that's by design, though, right?
I know it's me.
They collapse to the middle.
Yeah,
right?
I've never liked that, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, it's got to be both. I'm not going to point the finger and say, well, it's specifically this. But as we get into it later, I think if you do improve one area, or the easier area to improve will help out the latter. But I'll get into that more when we talk about some trade market targets.
See, for me, that game was more of an indictment of the goaltending because, listen, anytime you're up 7-2 going into the third period, you're not going to play as tight defensively as you would if it was 0-0. That's just like human nature. So, yeah, they were going to allow chances, and we could talk about, it was deflected, and, goalies got to make saves. They're supposed to make saves, even on shots that are difficult and deflected. And both goalies were not making the saves, and Campbell specifically was not making the saves. The 5th goal was terrible. The 4th goal, I didn't like that either. Yeah, deflection, but you still got to have it. You got to come up with a save once in a while. I didn't like his game against Columbus. The same thing. Like, okay, they scored on a breakaway. Okay, but you got to make a save once in a while, and that's your job. Your job is not to just stop the easy ones. Your job is to stop the hard ones too. Yeah, I'm gonna throw a stat at you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say this goes back to when we did the watch along, and we were watching the game with the Leafs and the Rangers, and Campbell was actually playing well that game, but Shesterkin, as good as he's been, the Leafs were all over the Rangers, but when he had to make the save to keep them in the game, and sometimes he had no business making a save.
That's what I mean.
That he should have been. The Rangers were getting that, and sure enough, the old hockey adage, you make a save at one end, you go back the other way and score a goal. Leafs weren't getting that. And it's such a big momentum killer. I remember coaching myself. It's like, when you're in the game and you just get one of those really bad goals and it just deflates your bench.
Oh yeah. You know what I mean? Anybody who's played knows that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I think that's the one thing that kind of really disappoints me. I guess you can call maybe just before the All-Star break till now, because that's when their goaltending numbers have been really bad, because I know you're going to give that right now. But like, they're not getting a save when they need it, or a goal that shouldn't be going in. More of those are going in. That's what's really scaring me. That's that point. That's what concerns me.
You mentioned before the All-Star break, it's actually been happening way before that. At 5-on-5, the Leafs save percentage since January 1st is .882, which is good enough for last in the entire league. Yet the Maple Leafs record in that entire stretch is 14-6-2. That is incredible. This says two things to me. Number one, this team is really good. To overcome goaltending that poor, you must be a really good team. But it also tells me this is a problem, because in the playoffs, you cannot overcome and outscore goaltending that bad.
No.
So where do they go from here? Do the Leafs need a goalie? Because we've been talking about they need a defenseman, they need a top 6 winger. Now we want to add a goalie to this laundry list of things that this team needs. My goodness, that is a big shopping list and tough to get, especially with a cap crunch, even with Jake Muzzin possibly going on LTIR. No, where do you think they go from here?
Yeah, I've been struggling with this one. There's only one guy that is going to be eligible for an upgrade on really what you have right now, and that's Fleury. And I don't see it. I just don't see the move. I don't see the cap space. I don't see the return. You're better off investing the capital, which you really don't have a lot of, in your major needs, which is a top 4 defenseman and maybe a top 6 winger. But I would say that defense is the way they're going to go, and they should go. But from that standpoint, I look at teams, in the Eastern Conference, and I go down the list and look at their goaltending, and I'm talking about playoff success here. Go right down 1 to 8. You look at, there's only one guy on my list that I'm saying to myself, I don't want to play. And I there's one guy specifically, and that's Vasilevsky. He's got the pedigree, the Stanley Cup's behind him. You don't want to play him. Shesterkin, okay, give it to him. He's a young goalie having a great year. No playoff success. Bobrovsky, very little, if any, playoff success. They keep going down the list. Tristan Jarry, Ilya Samsonov, Swayman or Allmark. There are guys here that are not, you wouldn't say, are heads and above better, and I'm talking about the whole body of work, than Jack Campbell or Peter Mrazek. There's a guys they're all just kind of on the same, even keel, right?
It's a good point, yeah.
Right. So I'm saying to myself, where else are you going to go out and get somebody that's arguably that much better than what you have right now? We argued on this show before that if the concern factor with Jack Campbell, we said it ourselves. Jack Campbell's never played more than, was it 26, 27 games in a year? He's now slated to play or probably asked to play, 45 to 50 games. Couple that with a COVID break, which is another one-off that's really nobody's gone. Like he's going through the ups and downs of being an NHL starting goaltender, which he's never had. We've seen the highs, we've seen the lows. This is a mental thing with him. Okay.
That's my concern.
Yeah. It's not a physical ability, because we've seen it happen. We don't know what he's like from a mental side, getting out of the funks like this. We're going to find out. But now you have a capable goalie, and he's capable. A lot of people are not crazy about Mrazek. He's not flashy. He's efficient. And you know what? He's actually won in the playoffs. I have my numbers in front of me. He actually, I think it was 2019 with the Hurricanes. He started 11 games. He won a series. I think they were out in the second round, but he has 11 career. Was it? Sorry, I missed it here. Sorry. He has 5 career shutouts in the playoffs. He obviously has more wins. So you have something to fall back on if Campbell's not your answer. So why are you going to invest another second round pick or a first round pick on something that you probably are not going to get, or it's a marginal upgrade? So where does that take you? To the defense. So that's why I don't think, you're going to get a goaltender here. This doesn't make sense.
I agree. Yeah. I think they made their bed with Mrazek and Campbell. I think they're going to ride it out.
Correct.
You mentioned the mental part of the game with Campbell. We know he's really tough on himself, and Toronto is a market. This is where playing in the fishbowl is not good, because you're already self-conscious about your game, and now you're going to be asked about it every practice and after every game. It's going to take some real mental fortitude to pull through and get himself out of this, but they need him to. This whole season is riding on this, so they need him to be better, or at the very least, we need Mrazek to step up and fill that void.
Yeah, and Dubas took a chance here, knowing that he really didn't take a chance on Campbell. He took a chance on Campbell's contract. He was hoping to get all-star caliber goaltending at a fraction of the cost. For what Campbell's making this year, you can't argue. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
But what he's going to be possibly making next year, and he has played himself down, in my opinion.
Definitely. Yep.
But if you're looking at something like a 3-year at $4 million, I'm just pulling a number out of my head, because the guy's making what, 1.5 right now. Yep. Even if you double his AAV, like I said, I was generous, give him 3.7, 3.8, whatever. That's a little bit more concerning, because you've already invested 3 and change to Mrazek. But you cannot complain with what you're getting from Campbell right now at $1.5 million. So how much more you can invest in that goaltending next year? Like, is Campbell the guy next year? You've already signed Wall as well to a one-year deal or a multi-year because, you know, he's coming up. So it's going to be very interesting because Dubas is, you know, he's got his guys, obviously his Sioux guys. But when he invests in a guy, he goes, you know, he runs with it. So this is not just for this year. So I wonder if that's weighing into Campbell at all, saying, you know, I'm playing for a contract here. This could be weighing on him from that side as well.
Yeah, possibly, for sure. I just got a notification. But it was my Raptors notification, not my Leafs notification. So I thought someone.
I'm watching it. Trust me.
You'll fill us in. So you mentioned we think they're going to have an upgrade on defense. Mm-hmm. I know on our Twitter poll, you put up a Twitter poll, and the question was, who says no to this deal? So going to Toronto, we've got Jacob Chychrun and a 4th round pick. Going to Arizona would be Ilya Mikheyev, Nick Robertson, Topi Niemela, and a 2023 first round pick. 68% of our respondents says Toronto would say no to that deal. I thought it was a pretty fair deal. I know you came up with it, Frankie. I don't think people realize that, you know, to get a really solid defenseman who can play in your top pair that is still really young, the same age as your core, and you have them locked up for this playoff and additional 3 more years on top of that, signed at a very reasonable cap rate, that is worth a lot. And I know you got Robertson, who's, you know, he's a 2nd round pick, but he's a first round talent. We would say Niemela is definitely a first round talent. Then you got the first round pick. That's like 3 first round picks, but you're getting an incredible talent back who would solidify your defense for the next 4 years. You have to give up something to get something. I know you're going to break up the deal a little bit more. And I know there were some good responses from the people that answered the poll. Yep. So why don't you give us that? Yeah.
We had a great response rate. So thanks everybody who that this really blew up, to be honest with you. So, okay. So I looked at it from this way. More and more, I kept thinking to myself, Chychrun for me was never a target. Not that I didn't want him. It's just that I didn't think it was realistic at the time. The Muzzin injury changes things. And I say that because I like the way Leafs have been kind of toying with the idea of splitting Riley and Brody up. Brody's also playing on his strong side. And Chychrun is actually playing on the right side. Arizona had him on the right side, which is interesting as well. So more and more I said to myself, you know, what this team really needs, they have the forwards up front. Where else are you going to find a top 3? I didn't even say top 2, but let's just be generous. Top 3 defensemen with cost certainty at $4 million for the next, 4 years, who can solidify your back end for that long. That has to be your target. But with that, you're not going to get this guy for free, and you're going to be going up against the Rangers. You're going to be going against Florida, LA, who have excellent prospect pools. LA is like number 1 ranked in the league. So know that you're going to have to dip in and probably, you know, overpay in terms of your quality. So when I look at it and I look what the rumored deal for Chychrun is, obviously nobody has got him yet because they haven't paid up for it. But you got to think to yourself, to get, you got to give. And when I look at that, I look at their depth. I look at their depth at wing. You know, Arizona's going to ask for Matthew Knies, the local kid. Right. That's not going to happen. I think he's an absolute untouchable, only because they're going to need those entry-level deals to fill in the roster in the next couple of years. Big forward, you know, fact of him playing with Matthews, a whole Arizona connection. I think there's just too much there. But the other thing is you have to replace Chychrun. So that automatically defaults to Topi Niemela. Chychrun is your guy Niemela, if he was going to come into your roster in the next 3 years, you have a guy like Chychrun there already. So why do you need another one of those? You know what I mean? You have Sandin there. It's the same player. So that's what makes, you know, Niemela for me as expendable. That's why I put him in the deal. And he's one of the top prospects. So that makes sense. Robertson, again, you said it, Joe, 2nd round pick, but a 1st round talent. They have a couple of these guys on the wing. Again, expendable to me. The reason why I put Mikheyev in there is because you're probably going to end up losing him in the offseason. So I just kind of recouped it for a pick, but Arizona needs bodies. They need guys to play. You know, I'm playing Wednesday night at Sports Village, so I can't make it to Arizona. Although I'd love it. They need warm bodies. And Mikheyev is a he would be a top 6 on Arizona. It is what it is, right? So I just thought that the deals worked from that standpoint. Both sides are happy, but I'll throw another caveat in there. The Leafs have made 2 trades in the last 2 weeks with Arizona. The Nick Ritchie trade, obvious. But did you ever think what the Carter Hutton trade was? The Carter Hutton deal was I'd call it a favor, but the Leafs took on money from Arizona. Like they took on money for what reason? Maybe Dubas has established a relationship now with Bill Armstrong out in Arizona. Maybe there's something more to this that we don't see. I'm not looking for a conspiracy here, but 2 trades in 2 weeks. You know, you might have
give us the hat trick.
Why not 3? Right there could be leading up to something there. So, but some of these responses have been actually really good on both sides. We got guys who love it. Buds All Day Podcast, who follows us. He says that as a Leafs fan, I love it, and he's got a lot of followers, so that gained a lot of traction. One guy at Hattrick Tyler says, "Throw in Phil the Thrill." So would you take Kessel back and that deal? That'd be interesting.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Here's an interesting one. What's this one? This one was one guy says if there's no way he'd move Niemela, but he'd flip it and add in Ronnie Hirvonen, the other Finnish prospect. I just don't think that's big enough.
That wouldn't do it for the
to get it done.
Arizona would say
this one probably my favorite one here. Steve W90 says, I think it could be an overpay by the Leafs in the long run, but given the situation, I'd do the deal if I was Dubas. Toronto isn't the best of spots for D and goaltending issues now, but they have to go all in. That's the play. So, you look at it from both sides. It's a situational move for Dubas as well. So at some point, he's going to have to cash in the chips. And Chychrun would be the home run here. There's no better player, I think, available that fits the Leafs as good as he is right now in the spot that they need. He is the guy. There's no 1B. For me, that's him. After that, I think it's a serious drop-off for defensemen that may be available, even from a rental standpoint. That's the guy with term checks, all the boxes. Makes sense.
Okay. I think we're 3 weeks away from the trade deadline. So, Kyle Dubas doesn't like to leave it to the last minute. I mean, we could be days away from a big deal here. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on and see what happens on the trade market in the next week or so even. Lastly, let's look at the week ahead. The Leafs are playing Washington right now. They're tied. And now they've got Buffalo at home and they got Vancouver at home. What are you looking for the rest of the week? What do you want to see from this team?
Well, I know they're fighting a bit of a flu bug that's actually going around the league right now. But I know
Ottawa's fighting it too. Yeah, right now.
Andre Cash is out tonight. Supposedly that's the reason why. For me, one of the interesting stories here is Nick Robertson. For me, this call up came out of nowhere. I like it. It looks like it's a bit of a showcase, even though I'd have him a little higher up in the lineup.
Yeah,
but I'd like to see him, get an actual chance on the top 6. Because you know why, Joe? He might be that top 6 acquisition, and it's right in their backyard, right? So, I know Keith likes to experiment and get some of these lines going. Why not him? The Kerfoot experiment for me is done. Good player, solid 2-way guy. But if you want to get Tavares going, I'd like another offensive guy in there. He's got more offense than Kerfoot. So I'd like to see that. The other story for me, we've talked about the goaltending already. I get it. I think Campbell needs a little bit of a reset here. And Tom Wilson's an absolute goof. I don't know why Simmons is not out here pounding his goddamn face. But the other for me is the deep pairings. I like this new setup. I obviously Brody and Riley were the top pair, but I like this new structure because that opens up options for Dubas, knowing that if they can move Brody out as that second pair left side defenseman, and then Sandin as number 3, that's pretty solid down the left. Liljegren's getting a chance in the top 4. So it's a nice little change. I don't know how long they're going to keep going with it. Justin Hall seems to be doing okay playing with Brody as a safety net. So I'm kind of looking at that. They're going to play some weaker opponents. So you might get a little bit of an easier ride. Then again, the Leafs don't make anything easy. But that's kind of what I'm looking at here. And that top line, oh my God, I don't have enough time to talk about this top line, but they're spectacular. It's what's stirring the drink right now, right? So Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I know there's a theory like you might want to drop a guy from the top line to help another line, but they're just playing so well right now. I don't want to disrupt
You're not touching
that.
that. You're not touching it. You're going to need that for playoff time. But
It does worry me though, because come playoff time, we've become this one line team in the past, and I don't want that to happen again. You need 2 lines, even 3 lines contributing if you want to go far. So hopefully, that second line can start to pick it up. We won't touch on it too quickly, but I think it might be time to split up Tavares and Nylander. We talked a lot about, they should acquire someone to fit on that line, but maybe the pair of them just don't work that well together. Maybe their styles are not a fit together. I mean, over the last 3 seasons, they're a +2, and I'm not a huge plus minus guy. I know that stat.
It's a flawed stat. Yeah,
it's a flawed stat for sure. But you would think those 2 players who you're paying $18 million to, a 3-year sample size should be better than +2. And I'm seeing a lot of plays. There's not a lot of offensive zone time when they have the puck. It's like one and done. I don't know. I would give a run. I would give another line configuration a little run here. Not just one game. Give it a couple games. Give Tavares some grinders, like a Mikheyev and a Kasha, and drop. Yeah. I like Nylander with Kerfoot, to be honest. They're both good at rushing the puck. I don't know who you would have center that line, but maybe Kerfoot centers that line and then throw another winger on the other side. I think they need to test that out.
These are good problems. These are good problems. Yeah. I think I don't know what it is with Tavares and Nylander, only because when Tavares was at his highest peak, he was making average guys lots of money. Josh Bailey, Kyle Pozo, Matt Molson. And now you throw a guy like Nylander on his wing, and for some reason, it's just not clicking. Where Nylander really didn't need anybody to play with, like he's that type of puck possession guy. But maybe you're right, Joe. I think it's too bad Cash is not playing that, but I thought he was really good on the second line, being that Hyman type of guy on that line. So I'd like to see that get an extended look. But he's got a little offensive touch to him too. So you're right. Maybe another guy on the other side with the same similar players.
Get behind the goal line, grind it out.
Yeah, I mean? and I get that Tavares is not scoring goals right now, but if you look, he's still putting up points. He's at a point a game pace still. So I know it's not flashy, and people want to look at, well, he's not putting the goals up, but he's still doing his job. He's putting the points up, and we lose sight of that only because Matthews and Marner are scoring out of their mind right now. So let's put things into perspective. And frankly, last thing I'll say on this, I really could give 2 shits what John Tavares is doing in February. I want to know what John Tavares does in May. So right now, I really don't care how many goals he's got. Save him for the playoffs, because that's where we're going to need him the most.
That's what he's doing. That's what we're going to end it with. Guys, relax. JT is just saving it all for the playoffs. All right. So not to worry, not to fret. We're going to see him explode in the playoffs. All right. Frankie, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. And you know what? It's nice when the big guy doesn't show up either, when it's just the 2 of us. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Please hit that like button, that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. Thank you for checking in on our Twitter polls and responding to it. We really appreciate the love. And tell us what you think. We love the feedback. So
more to come. Keep your eye out. We're going to be doing daily trade proposals. So keep those awesome. keep them coming.
All right. Thanks everyone. Have a great week.
See you guys.